Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Heavenly Father, YAHAWAH, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the elders at GreatMillStone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect. And I wanted to deal with the topic regarding King Solomon. All right. As you know, you have particular men who are being exposed on all levels. So what they're doing is staying up all night searching for particular ways to make GreatMillStone look bad. All right. And we are in a spiritual fight. All right. And I'm known as the cleanup man, the janitor. All right. And hey, you got to get dirty. And this is a dirty job. So today I'm going to deal with, this controversy surrounding King Solomon head on, going into the Holy Scriptures. All right. And King Solomon, we know, all right, after David subdued all of the heathen round about, okay, he was the figurehead, when David wanted to build a temple, all right, in Jerusalem to bring the Ark of the Covenant over, just as Moses built the tabernacle. David had his mind out to build a temple. Well, his hands were too bloody, all right, so the Heavenly Father said, your son, okay, the one who issues forth from your bowels, all right, he's going to be the one to build the temple, and eventually he's going to be the one to establish the kingdom forever, for those who have ears to hear. Now, Solomon is that son, and we know that he ruled for 40 years, and we had 40 years of peace. All right, as a matter of fact, right here, all we have to do is type in 40 years. Okay. Go to the book of 1 Kings 11 and 42. And at the time that Solomon reigned over Jerusalem, over all Israel, was 40 years. All right. So this is where we get the 40 years of peace. Okay. Now, that was the last time we as the Israelites had all 12 tribes together in a sovereign government. All right. Because at the end of Solomon's life, as he got older, he committed some very, very wicked trespasses and sinned against the Lord. And we're going to go into those sins. And it's very important that you watch the whole video to hear the whole matter, because the way that these men operate, all right, they'll play a particular part of a video, all right, to draw out emotions. This is how they work. All right. It's all based upon, carnal reaction. All right. But they're never really playing the whole videos to get the full matter. So this is what we're going to do today. Now, out of Solomon's own mouth, all right, here in the book of Ecclesiastes, okay, let's read what he said. Because what we do know about Solomon, is on the left-hand side, even in Masonry, he's known as the highest level witch, okay, to ever have lived. He went deep into the realm of darkness, okay, and we'll show you that in the Bible. Okay. Ecclesiastes 1 and 17. I have this in the NLT, and then I'll pull them up in the King James. It says, so I set out to learn everything from wisdom to madness and folly. This is King Solomon. He set out to learn everything from wisdom to madness and folly. But I learned firsthand that pursuing all this is like chasing the wind. Okay. Vanity. Okay, so when you look at the book of Ecclesiastes, which is one of my favorite books, when you read it, Solomon, basically based on everything he had lived through, up to that point, he's just given emotions and thoughts, random thoughts, according to what he's witnessed. Okay, sometimes you sit down and write in your diary. All right, well, the book of Ecclesiastes is Solomon pretty much doing that, all right? And we have it, all right, as a means of wisdom something to read and to look to. Some very, very beautiful sayings here. Okay. I'm going to jump to Ecclesiastes 7:25. It says, I applied mine heart to know and to search and to seek out wisdom and the reason of things, and to know the wickedness of folly, even the foolishness of madness. All right. So let's look up this word folly. All right. Well, wickedness, the wickedness of folly. The word wickedness we know is rashai. All right. Wrong. All right. Violent crimes against, all right, the law. All right. What is Solomon telling you? All right. Folly. All right. Kasal. Flank, stupidity, folly. I mean, Solomon, pretty much there came a point into his life where he wanted to delve or dwell into evil. Okay. And we know, according to the Bible, it was a result of dealing with those strange women and bowing to those gods. Okay. Now, David himself dealt, all right, with concubines and strange women, but he never bowed to their gods. Okay. So when we go to 1 Kings, the 11th chapter, we're just going to jump to the point. All right. 2 Kings 11:4. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods. And his heart was not perfect with Yahweh his God, as was David his father. Okay, because David never bowed to the gods of those concubines that he took when he conquered those nations. All right, and he took those concubines according to what? The law. When you conquer a nation and you see one of the captives that you like, you can take her. She would have to shave her head, her nails, and after a month of mourning, you can go in unto her and she would be your wife. That's in the law. David, all right, as he took these women on, he didn't bow to their gods, but Solomon, you know, because after David, these heathen were completely subdued. So Solomon takes over and fords his father's throne, and this is eventually what ends up happening with him. All right. So he did what? Evil. His heart wasn't right. Okay. Now let's read what he did. 1 Kings 11:5. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth. Now, dealing with the argument and the sensationalism of what Apostle Gabar said. Okay, Apostle Gabar, as he's reading about Solomon, he said, you know what? It's possible that King Solomon dealt in homosexuality. Now, why would he say that? All right, again, these are dark and hard sayings, right? Now, why would he say that? What is Ashtoreth? All right, we're going to look into these particular gods that Solomon bowed to and build high places into, and the practices of those gods. Okay, because remember, Solomon went all the way left. Okay, now it does not say in the scriptures, all right, that he did commit the abomination of homosexuality. But when you look into the gods that he bowed to, it's a possibility. That's all the elder Apostle Gabar said. Okay. And we know the elder Apostle Gabar is known. He'll take it there. But once you get your emotions out of the way, and once you deal with what he's actually saying, is it true or is it false? So that's what we're going to deal with. Is there a possibility? Okay. Of course, the in the flesh part of it, it's like, nah, hell nah. That was our king. Right? Well, when we go into what were the practices of worshiping Ashtoreth? As a matter of fact, real quick, let me read this. This is the book of Ecclesiastes 39. Okay. Speaking of him who gives this law his mind to the law of the Most High. All right. The volume of the book, and is occupied in a meditation thereof. He will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient and be occupied in prophecies. All right. And what did Paul say? I have not shunned to declare unto you the whole gospel. Okay. Let's get that real quick. And if you're not going to watch it until the end, all right, then just turn the video off, because this video is going to require you to watch it to the end okay, to get the full understanding of what we're saying. Acts 20 and 27, for I have not shunned to declare unto you all the counsel of the Most High. All right. Now, is child sacrifice wicked? Did Solomon partake in child sacrifice? Well, this is what we're going to do is we're going to look into the scriptures and see. And you give your judgment at the end of the video. And again, understandable that it's hard to take in, but let's go into the scriptures and see. So it says, he will keep the sayings of renowned men, and where subtile parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences and be conversant in dark parables. All right. And we're not ashamed. And this is why, we're open for, the harshest of ridicules, because we're not afraid to go into the scriptures and show you what it is. Here it is. These men are ashamed to admit that we have a law on how to deal with rape. These men are ashamed to deal with the fact that in the ancient world, women were given into marriage as early as 12, 13, and 14. They can't wrap their minds around that. Okay, meaning they're not fit to really teach the scriptures. Why? Because they're going to trim their way to seek love. They teach that you have to be 20 years old. Before a woman could be given into marriage, she would have to be 20 years old in ancient Israel. You can't find that. That's not in the Bible. That's not in the scholarship. Go into the history. But anyway, so Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, okay, Hamites, I believe, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. All right. Now, when you go back to the law that was given written on stone to Moses, we were always told not to bow to these particular gods of these heathen, because they will draw us away into breaking the laws of the Most High. So Ashtoreth, let's look up Ashtoreth real quick. And you look up these gods. You look up Ashtoreth and the particular practices associated with Ashtoreth. Okay? Ashtoreth. All right. Ishataroth. All right. Says a star dealing with fertility worship. Principal female deity of the Phoenicians, worshipped in war and fertility. And all of these gods are here today, being worshipped and practiced. And they push the current vibration of this world. Now, our King Solomon fell to these gods. Okay. Also, Ishtar of Assyria, Astarte by the Greeks and Romans. So we know heathens, okay, delved into these gods. This was how they worshipped. Okay. And what were we told in the book of Deuteronomy, the 12th chapter? Okay. Okay. Because what you're going to find out is that King Solomon introduced some very wicked practices, including giving your child over to Molech and to these various different gods. Okay, which, later on down the line, King Josiah even had to come and cut that abomination out. So you dudes really don't understand the scriptures, man. Okay? Deuteronomy 12 and 29. When Yahweh thy God shall cut off all the nations from before thee, okay, whether thou goest to possess them, all right, and who led that? All right, Moses, Aaron, eventually Joshua, Caleb. Okay. But remember Moses, all right? Whether thou goest to possess them, and thou succeedest them, and dwellest in their land. All right. Now, when you get second Wisdom of Solomon, the 12th chapter, it tells you of the particular works of witchcraft and blood drinkings and things like that these heathen were doing when they were in the Holy Land. Okay. Take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them after they be destroyed from before thee. Now, didn't David destroy these different nations at the time of Solomon? And that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Okay, there came a point in Solomon's walk where he went against this. Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord, For every abomination of the Lord which he hateth have they done unto their gods, all right, for their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods. Now, are you man enough to say King Solomon, all right, delved in those practices? Well, let's see. Okay? So he followed Ashtoreth. He went after Ashtoreth. Now, all you would have to do, let's just type in Ashtoreth. Okay? Look up the gods. Look up the practices associated with them. Okay? We just type in Ashtoreth. Okay? A principal deity, all right, called Ishtar by the Assyrians. Astarte, we just read that. Just look it up. As a matter of fact, I got this video pulled up. Let me play this real quick. Ashtoreth, goddess of sex and spring, break, and sexual sin. Okay?
Thing about the false gods. Idol, deity, goddess, whatever you want to call it. Ashtoreth is one of the names of the spiritual force of evil in the heavenly realms related to immorality and sexual disorders. You can see its roots in prostitution, sexual slavery, sexual abuses, pedophilia, rapes, incestus, and pornography, the undervaluation of a woman, and the reduction of sex as something worthless, a simple act of individual.
That's all we need to play. Okay, you can look up these particular things on your own, and you post to the comment board. After you search and research, right? We're supposed to be scholars, right? Research Ashtoreth and see what you can find according to the particular practices that was associated with that. All right? Just look it up. All right? Molech worship included sexual worship of Ashtoreth. Whew. Read it here. Male worshipers had anal sex with priests and priestesses. All right? And so forth, which is off, right? Now, there's no written document that Solomon did that, but let's just keep reading because he went after these gods. Okay, for Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. All right, let's look up Milcom. All right, let's look it up real quick. Malacham, the great king, god of the Ammonites. And we know the Ammonites were filthy people. Okay, the so-called Japanese today. Eating all types of abominations, doing all types of weird practices. Okay? Now, how did Solomon get into these practices? All right? The women. Okay? Now, that's the difference between a marriage, which should be between you and your Israelite wife, all right, and a concubine. See, Solomon was taking these women in and making marriages with them. Now, what happens at a marriage? You join households. So these heathen would be able to bring their gods and goddesses and align them, all right, with the family of Solomon. So what did this lead to? What? Immorality and different practices started to be implemented, which we can go throughout the whole scriptures and find Israel going off. All right, when the scriptures talks about they declare their sin as Sodom, it's talking about Israelites. Our people, all right, and we're not ashamed, all right, at particular points. Look at them now. Okay? Anyway, it says also Molech, okay, the god of the Ammonites and Phoenicians, to whom some Israelites sacrificed their infants in the valley of Hinnom. Is that scriptural? Yes. Okay? Yes. All right, all you would have to do is just go into the scriptures, man. Okay? As a matter of fact, Hinnom, Jeremiah 7:31. And they have built the high places of Tophet, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire. Israelites did that. All right, you ashamed of the history? Yeah. Our forefathers and foremothers got into that practice. Okay? Hey, we're just giving you the history. You got a problem with it? Hey. So Solomon went after, okay, let's look up this word, went after. Okay? Well, you know what it means. Okay? He went after the gods. Okay? And goddesses of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of Yahweh, and went not fully after Yahweh as David his father. Okay? Although David had some very serious sins, none of his sins were ever bowing to the gods of these heathen, because he did it in order. Solomon lost his mind. Okay? Then Solomon did build an high place for Shamash. Now, what is a high place? A place where you go to do sacrifice. Let's see if we can find if it says it in here. Okay? The high place is an altar. They would go into the tops of these hills and under these graves and do wickedness. All right? But Shah, does it hurt your feelings? Is it too hard for you to accept that Solomon went into this stuff? Okay? It says high place. All right. Technical name for a cultic platform. High places, places of worship. See if it goes into more down here. Yep. High places as places of worship, at first on the hills and mountains, later on artificial mounds or platforms under green trees, and in cities still later, chapels erected thereon. And once apparently a portable sanctuary, all right, decked with colors. The ancient worship of Israel was conducted on these high places. Now, we have high places. The temple was on a high place, right? But what did the heathen do? They built ziggurats. Solomon was into that. Okay? Solomon got into that, man. Solomon did build a high place for Shamash. Let's read this in the NLT. Salakia. And we're just going to tackle it head on. If you got a problem with it after we bring it out, then that's on you. 1 Kings 11:7. On the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem, he even built a pagan shrine for Shamash. Now, what happened in those shrines? The detestable god of Moab. Oh, Lord, the so-called Chinese. You could just imagine. And another for Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. Solomon built such shrines for all his foreign wives to use for burning incense and sacrificing to their gods. The Lord was very angry with Solomon, for his heart had turned away from Yahweh, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. Okay? So let's look up Shamash. Okay? Shamash. Because at first I was like, nah, I'm not dealing with that, you know? But then a particular believer hit me up. It was like, man, what meaneth this? All right? So I was like, I'm pretty sure there's other people who may need the edification on what we really meant, on why that was said. Because, of course, they're using sensationalism because they're hurt. Deacon Hakai is out of his wits. He brought up the Star of David, man. He's out of there. So since I'm doing this, all right, which is, hey, you jumping into the flame. It's a dirty job. Since I'm doing this, hopefully you can do a lesson on how Solomon in the Songs of Solomon wrote about a woman swallowing his semen and his rod being bigger than everyone else's. Hopefully the deacon can do that as we waiting on that breakdown. Now, the word is Kamawash, subduer, a national deity of the Moabites and a god of the Ammonites. also identified with Baal Peor. Now, what is Baal Peor? The god of the opening. Okay, and what is that dealing with? Sexual immorality. Okay, all you have to do is just look up Baal Peor. Israel fell to that in the wilderness. Okay, let's look it up. I mean, I have a lesson on Baal Peor. All right, now in the lesson, everybody commented like, "Damn, this is wicked." But it's crazy to now know Solomon got involved in those practices, right? So what did he do? All the apostle was saying it's a possibility. Okay? It's a hard pill to swallow, and I don't even want to say it, but all right. Baal Peor in the sexual sin of Balaam. Okay? Look up Baal Peor. These are things you need to look up. Okay? So you can understand what the Bible is talking about. The Lord of the opening, told you. The God of the Moabites. Worshipped by obscene rites. Let's look up the word obscene. And if you do a response, go into everything we saying. Stop stopping at these points that can be used as a means of drawing out emotion, and go into the whole thing. The full argument of what we're saying. Obscene is of the portrayal or description of sexual matters offensive or disgusting. We're just going to leave it there. Okay? On Mount Peor, where this god was worshipped, was celebrated, the Baal of Peor, the Israelites fell into worship of this idol in Numbers 23:5-3, Numbers 25:5, Numbers 25:18, Deuteronomy 4:3, Psalms 106:28, Hosea 9:10. Okay, so it's easy to say, well, Israel was being faggots, Israel was doing this, Israel was doing that, but it's hard to read how King Solomon got into these particular gods. All right? Baalzebub, the Lord of the Flies. It's interesting that YAHAWAH was associated with Beelzebub. They called him that. Mars and Saturn. Now, when you go into the worship of Saturn and Mars, all right, Saturn deals with what? All right? This is why in the when the Lord gave the law, he said a man should not wear a female's clothing and a woman shouldn't put on a male armor. Why? Because that's what those heathen were doing. Okay? The law was centered around anti-heathen behavior. Don't do what they do. The worship of this god was introduced into Jerusalem by Solomon and abolished by King Josiah of Judah. Okay? The healer came through. I'm not ashamed of the history. I'm reading to you our history, right? So then did Solomon build a high place for Shamash. All right? You go to Shamash. Okay, the ancient god of the Moabites. Okay, Shamash seems to have had a taste for blood. And Shamash was synonymous with child sacrifice. Case in point, what does it call it here? The abomination of Moab. Now, when you go to 2 Kings, the 3rd chapter, as the king of Moab is losing a war with the Edomites, okay, losing, what did he do? Then the king took, 2 Kings 3:27, then the king of Moab took his oldest son, who would have been the next king, and sacrificed him as a burnt offering on the wall. So there was great anger against Israel, and the Israelites withdrew and returned to their own land. So just like now, you're seeing all of these suicides, all of these particular celebrities, children, so-called committing suicide and dying. These are sacrifices, man, because when you're losing, when the heathen are losing, they sacrifice their children. They sacrifice children, their firstborn, and so forth like that, as a means of what? A chance to start getting victories and get back in good graces with their gods. See that? All right. But here in this case, it was his oldest son. So he's using his old age, and the king of Moab offered him up as a sacrifice. Child sacrifice are involved in the rituals of Shamash. Okay, human sacrifice. While gruesome was certainly not unique to the Moabites, as such rites were the commonplace in the various Canaanite religious cults, including those of the Baals and the Molechs, mythologists and other scholars suggest that such activity may be due to the face of Shamash and other Canaanite gods such as Baal, Molech, Tammuz, and Beelzebub, which are all personifications of the sun or the sun rays. Okay? They represent the fierce, inescapable, and often consuming heat of the summer sun, a necessary but deadly element in life. Analogs may be found in Aztec sun worship, which was Jake going all the way off. Okay? Let's see here. I mean, you could look these things up, right? Look up Shamash. Okay? Shamash was the god of the Moabites. Scripture called him the abomination of Moab. Unfortunately, I mean, here it is. The scholars they don't have a problem admitting it. Why you got a problem admitting it? Now, does the Bible say Solomon, all right, went there? No. However, all the Apostle Gabar said, and he said, I know this is going to be controversial. It's possible King Solomon went there. Now, based upon what we're reading, is it possible? Yes. Shamash worship was introduced into Israel culture by King Solomon, who had wives from other cultures who turned his heart to the other gods. Shamash was one of those gods worshipped by Solomon's wives. The cult of Shamash was eventually destroyed by King Josiah in 2 Kings, the 23rd chapter. All right, you can read 2 Kings, the 23rd chapter, and how Josiah, okay, he was like, hell nah. Once they woke up and found out, what their duties were supposed to be, they found that scroll. They was like, hell nah. We tripping. Okay? But all you have to do is look the gods up. Okay? Thus saith the Lord. We're reading the scriptures. Okay? So Solomon built a high place for Shamash. All right, the abomination in Moab, and the hill that is set before Jerusalem, and for Molech. Now, we all know what Molech is about, right? All right. Molech, also spelled Molech or Moloch, a Canaanite deity associated in biblical sources with the practices of child sacrifice. The name derives from combing the consonants of the Hebrew Malach, which means king. All right? With the vowels Bashet, shame. All right? In the Hebrew Bible, Molech is presented as a foreign deity, okay? As a foreign deity who was at times illegitimately given a place in Israel's worship. Now, see what King David did that Solomon didn't do. Those heathen would have to bow fully to your God. Those concubines. They couldn't forward the practices and mindsets of their fathers. That's why in the law it gives them a month to mourn, and then you go in unto her. She's getting ready now. She's going to forward your enterprise, forward your kingdom. That's the difference between a wife and a concubine. A concubine is a lesser wife, all right, through bondage because you took down that nation, or in a situation you would have an Israelite family who was poor or not doing so well. There was particular laws in place where they could sell their daughters off to a well-to-do, all right, man, all right? And she would be his concubine, a lesser wife in his house if he had the means to do so. And he would compensate the family with the money they needed. That's in the law. All right. But there you go. Okay. Let's see here. The laws given to Moses by God expressly forbade the Jews to do, all right, or the Israelites to do what was done in Egypt or Canaan. And now we're in the spiritual Egypt and Canaan, Sodom, Babylon, right? So all of these things are happening again. Okay? You shall not give any of your children to devote them by fire to Molech and so profane the name of your God. Leviticus 18 and 21. Okay? And there's many kings who did that. Ahaz, Manasseh. When you look at a lot of the kings of Judah, after Solomon split, a lot of them did wicked, sacrifice. Look at the northern kingdom kings. Okay? None of them did right. None of them, not one. But then when you go to the kings of Judah, all right, starting with Rehoboam, you look down, out of about 19 or 20, only 6 or 7 did right. The rest of them were into these practices, man, that were introduced by King Solomon. And child sacrifice was a part of it, yes. Kings of Judah partook in child sacrifice. How about that? Ahaz, 2 Kings 16 and 3. Let's look it up. You ashamed? Well, do better. This is why we're here today. Our forefathers went all the way there. Hold up. Where did it say? Give me 1 second. No, that ain't what I wanted. 2 Kings 16 and 3, Salakia. It says, Ahaz reigns over Judah, all right? 20 years old was Ahaz when he began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and did not that which was right in the sight of Yahweh his God, like David his father, but he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, yea, and made his sons to pass through the fire. Now, would it be too far-fetched to say Solomon did the same thing? I don't know if it was his direct sons he would have did it with, but would it? Who introduced these practices into Jake? Solomon. According to the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel, and he sacrificed and burned incense in the high places and on the hills and under every green tree. What did Solomon do? Okay. 1 Kings 11 and 7. Then did Solomon build an high place for Shamash, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem. He did this close to Jerusalem, man. And for Molech, in the abomination of Ammon, likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And Yahweh was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned unto the Lord God, turned from the Lord God of Israel, which appeared unto him twice. And commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after the gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. Okay, and the Lord told Solomon not to do this. All right, but the Lord made us subject to vanity for his purposes, man. Okay? Are you offended? Okay? I mean, we can keep going. There's other kings who did it too. Okay? King Manasseh, why do you think he had that long repentance in the Apocrypha? He was doing all of that stuff, man. Look at it. Look it up. And we know the elite, even at the Bohemian Grove, practice and do that type of stuff, man. Sacrificing of children. But when you go into their doctrine, all you have to do is type in Masons. Let's see if we can type it in. Okay? Because when you go into Masonry, all right, they have a special liking for King Solomon, but it's on the left-hand side. You can look that up, you know. The Midnight Freemasons, the magic of King Solomon. Solomon got into magic. He did a lot of wickedness. Okay? You can read through all of that. According to Talmudic text, the book of Tobit, King Solomon soon was placed face to face with the king of demons, Asmodeus, all right, who tricked King Solomon, yada, yada, yada. And this is all of this stuff that they go into, all right. You can, you know, if you want to get into that, you can. There's nothing required. But the on the left hand, the Masons do, you know, they take a liking unto King Solomon, and they say he was the highest level witch, because what did he represent? You know, the 300, all right, degrees of righteousness and wickedness. All right, he, you know, that's what the Lord set him up to do, and through his fall, we haven't had a government since. All right, so I mean, we can go into way more. I don't want to go too far into this. I just wanted to, you know, put the true case out there, you know, because these guys like to take little clips and be demons. They're hurt, you know. That's what a demon would do. You know, y'all talking about we bearing false witness. What false witness have we bore? If anything, we're using your own words. We ain't bearing no false witness against you. All right? But see, that's the game they play, all right? You'll bring out what they're all about. You'll bring out this and that, and they'll find one point where it can be like, nah, and then that's what they'll focus on and say. But all of the other stuff, all right, because we know Alazar is a student of, all right, a lot of Torah only demons. Now, the dude, Divine Prospect, supposedly he believes in the Messiah, but he downs the New Testament. But I've seen him before say on sign of the TV, he doesn't believe the Messiah is coming. He doesn't believe that Esau is the white man. But then here it is, you have these Israelites who's supposed to be high level going to him for knowledge on the New Testament. And he teaches that the book of Hebrews, which ultimately shows you that the Levitical priesthood is no longer of importance to us, though it was a beautiful thing for that covenant. Okay, the priesthood has been transferred. That's why do you think John the Baptist, a descendant of Aaron, okay, baptized YAHAWAH? Okay, there's no greater prophet, all right, than John the Baptist, Elijah. Okay, and at the time of Moses, Aaron was the prophet. But anyway, the bottom line is we can look up more of these gods and what they're all about. Okay. And this is why Solomon, and this should give you insight too. All right. Because as Nathan the prophet is speaking to David about Solomon, okay, what did he say? What did the Lord tell Nathan to say of Solomon? 2 Samuel 7:14, I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. Right? Where is the record of Solomon, which we just read about the wickedness he did, right? Where's the record of him being corrected and disciplined with the rod of men? So now you should have more of an understanding of why YAHAWAH had to go through that brutal sacrifice, because through his stripes, okay, it said with the stripes of the children of men, right? Okay, what's the stripes? Let's look up stripes. Nigga, like nigga, that hurt. It's just playing. Nagai, all right? The guy, stroke, all right? And what was YAHAWAH beat with? So Solomon did pay, but there's no record of him paying as Solomon, okay? So let's go to the book of Isaiah 53, where it uses the same word. Isaiah 53 and 8, he was taken from prison in judgment, and who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off of the land of the living, out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was stricken. It seems like this is in the, okay, through his stripes. Hold up. Where does this say stripes healed? Okay, verse 5. Isaiah 53 and 5, but he was wounded for our transgressions, and he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Okay, so this gives you understanding, all right, that hey, Adam and Solomon did pay. It's not written that they paid, all right, but there you go. Okay, let's get Romans, the 5th chapter. All right, through his stripes, the Lord said if Solomon went off, he would beat him with the stripes, the rod of men. And through those stripes, that's how we're healed. Romans 5 and 19. For as by one man's disobedience, many were made sinners. Adam, okay, Solomon. Since Solomon, we ain't had no government. We've been through. But by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous. And when he came as YAHAWAH, he was obedient as a son. Even when he was tempted, he never fell to any temptation. He was perfect. Okay, he took on our sins. Okay, and became a sacrifice for us. He fulfilled all the law. He's the scapegoat. He's the high priest. He's the unblemished lamb. Now, I have a question for you all who watched this whole video. John 6 and 61. When YAHAWAH knew in himself that his disciples murmured at what he said unto them, does this offend you? All right. So the question is, does what we just brought out, does it offend you? And if you're offended, just go scoff. Go join Deacon. And hopefully Alazar can make us some gorilla bread, because we're tired of everybody calling themselves priest and this, but they ain't doing nothing the priest actually did. The priest dealt with the showbread. We want to taste some bread, man. I want to get, if one of the Levitical priests is back, make up some showbread. And you bet not have sex before you make it, because according to the law, you couldn't be with a woman and deal with that bread as a priest. Anyway, hopefully I was edified. On to the next.